I am Ibrahim Traoré, President of Burkina Faso, a soldier born from the people and belonging to the people. Today, I speak to the entire continent of Africa, because there are things that can no longer be hidden. When a president does not take the oath among his own people, but between concrete walls and gun barrels, that is no longer a leader. That is a ruler living in fear. These are the words I want to say directly to this continent, in light of what has taken place in Tanzania. A few days ago, Samia Suluhu, the woman who calls herself the President of the United Republic of Tanzania, took her oath of office not amid the cheers of her people, but amid the clatter of weapons, inside a military barracks in Dodoma. There was no public audience, no national anthem sung together with the people. Only uniforms, chairs arranged by ranks of power, and faces too afraid to look away from the script they had been given. Television cameras were restricted to certain angles, all pointed at the central podium. No one was allowed to see the steel fences surrounding the site. No one heard the voices of the people outside, because the applause heard on television was added later, edited to fit the performance. Every person seated inside the hall had been pre-selected not because they represented the people, but because they knew how to bow their heads. Just beyond the fences, police dispersed the crowds with tear gas. Dozens of people disappeared on the night before the inauguration, and the national broadcaster, which should have been the eyes of the people, went off air after 12 minutes, citing technical difficulties. No, that was not a technical issue. It was fear. A true leader takes the oath before their people. One who rules through fear takes the oath among guards. Samia Suluhu said she took her oath to protect the citizens, but in that very moment, she hid behind steel walls from those very citizens. That was not a ceremony. It was a confession that her power is built on fear. Fear of the people's gaze. Fear of the cries from the streets. Fear of the very name Tanzania she swore to represent. Al Jazeera and DW have confirmed that in Dar es Salaam, protests were violently dispersed. More than 40 people were arrested. Amnesty International stated, media outlets and civil society organizations were denied access to information during the first 72 hours. But the most brutal thing, ladies and gentlemen, was not in the ceremony itself. It was in one cold, metallic sentence uttered by a government official. Those protesters are not Tanzanians. Yes, they have stripped away not only the people's voices, but also their very right to be human. But the true tragedy does not lie within the steel fences of Dodoma. It lies in the bowed heads of those who should have spoken out. While the blood on the streets of Dodoma had not yet dried, streams of congratulatory tweets flooded social media. Kenyan President William Ruto sent his congratulations. The people of Kenya replied, "You talk about democracy while praising a dictator. You speak of democracy, yet you glorify a tyrant." Ugandan President Yoweri Museveni wrote, "The victory of Suluhu is a testament to the people's faith." The people of Uganda responded with bitter laughter. Birds of the same feather flocked together. Birds of the same feather, after all, return to the same nest. In Zambia, Malawi, and Ghana, thousands of comments appeared under the hashtag number not in my name. The people said, "You do not represent us. Do not speak in our name to legitimize tyranny." After, why did they do it? Why did those leaders close their eyes? Not because they were unaware, but because they dared not lose. Zambia needs the port of Dar es Salaam to export copper they cannot afford to offend Tanzania. Burundi depends on Tanzania for trade, transportation, and even political cover within the East African community. Mozambique requires military cooperation with Tanzania in Cabo Delgado to counter the ISIS-Maz insurgents. Somalia must preserve a regional alliance image to continue receiving international aid. As for Kenya, they cleverly sent the vice president instead of the president to keep the diplomatic door open, avoiding a photograph alongside an illegitimate election. That is their diplomacy. But for the people, it is betrayal. The people bleed, while presidents shake hands. The people are arrested while leaders smile for the cameras. They call it regional stability. I call it complicity. And when the people speak out, when they take to the streets to reclaim their dignity, the Tanzanian government does not engage, does not listen, it makes them disappear, as if they never existed. But do not be mistaken, this complicity does not end at Africa's borders. Behind those handshakes are other hands whiter, colder, orchestrating every move on the chessboard. When leaders remain silent, it is those who once drew the colonial maps that are now rewriting our destiny. When a fragile regime can no longer speak to its own people, it turns instead to plead with outsiders, and in that very moment, the door to foreign manipulation swings open. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is what is happening in Tanzania. Samia Suluhu may believe she is defending sovereignty, but in truth, she is turning Tanzania into a stage for powers that have always viewed Africa as a pawn to be sacrificed. They whisper into the ears of weak leaders, distrust your own people, believe that dissent is a foreign conspiracy. But it is those whispers, not the people of Tanzania, that are the real invaders. The West no longer needs armies to conquer. They use advisors, development funds, and humanitarian aid to sow the seeds of instability. They speak of democracy, yet sell us models designed for one purpose: to make Africa divide itself. And the most frightening thing is many leaders have believed them. In Dodoma, protesters are called foreign agents. But if anyone is acting from a foreign script, it is those delivering speeches in borrowed Western tongues. They forget that independence is not just a flag, it is freedom of thought, freedom to question, and freedom to protect one's people from every foreign hand. I ask, since when did questioning one's government become a crime, while mimicking the voice of Europe is seen as progress? Since when did the voice of the people become disruption, while the words of foreign advisors are treated as stability? That is not merely confusion, it is surrender. Surrender of the mind, long before surrender of the nation. As long as we believe that freedom is a gift bestowed by Europe, that very day we will offer our souls to those who once chained our ancestors. That is the warning I want to send to Samia Suluhu and to every leader on this continent. The West does not bring democracy. They bring the formula for chaos. Nigeria has paid the price. Sudan has paid the price. Ethiopia, Libya, Mali, Burkina Faso, all have once listened to the same promises of stability from the same deceitful tongues. They divide, they create crises, and then they return to sell peace as a commodity. Today, they are doing it in Tanzania. Tomorrow, they will do it somewhere else, if we continue to trust them more than we trust our own people. I say to the leaders of Africa, do not let those who once stole our lands now steal our souls under the language of aid and stability. When they speak of democracy, they mean control. When they speak of assistance, they mean profit. That is the trap Suluhu is walking into, and if Tanzania falls, the crack will spread across East Africa. But they forget Africa is no longer a continent of silence. No wall is thick enough to conceal the truth. No television network is powerful enough to cut off the voice of the people. And no foreign power is more dangerous than the ignorance of those who still believe in them. And in the very moment they believe they can manipulate Africa's destiny, there is one thing they will never understand: the people are no longer asleep. Suluhu may control the barracks, but she cannot control the truth. She may command the soldiers to fire, but she cannot command the conscience to be silent. Those who are called foreigners, they are the real Tanzanians. They did not come from outside. They were born on this soil. They eat this rice. They drink this water. Those who are forbidden to speak, they are the very voices awakening an entire continent. Africans today are no longer blindfolded. They have phones, they have networks, they have conscience, and most importantly, they have memory. No wall can keep the darkness when millions of phones shine their light. No silence can survive when an entire continent speaks as one. Do not let them divide us with artificial borders or the language of fear. Do not let them make us distrust one another. East African against West African, Muslim against Christian, farmer against soldier. We are Africa, not colonies trembling in fear, but nations awakening. If we stay silent today while Tanzania is being strangled, who will speak tomorrow when we are the ones being choked? If we call the repression in Dodoma an internal affair, then one day our own freedom will be branded as foreign interference. If Africa cannot move forward while every government fears its people more than it fears injustice, there can be no peace if people must stay silent just to stay alive. There can be no democracy if the oath of office is taken behind steel fences. It is time for our younger generations to understand. Power does not come from weapons, it comes from the courage to speak the truth. Freedom does not come from parliaments, it comes from the bravery of ordinary people. The youth in Dar es Salaam, in Dodoma, in Arusha, they do not need to be provoked. They only need to see the light of justice. And when they take to the streets, they are not destroying, they are reclaiming the dignity that was stolen from them. That is why I say to my brothers and sisters across the continent, stand with the people, not with power. Stand with the truth, not with comfort. Stand with freedom, for freedom is the first instinct of humanity and the last thing worth dying for. I, Ibrahim Traoré, son of Burkina Faso, soldier of the people, stand here today not to interfere in Tanzania, but to remind the world of a truth older than any treaty, any border, any flag. When a government begins to fear the voice of its people, it ceases to be a government, it becomes a fortress waiting to fall. No government can outlast the faith of its citizens. No bullet can fire faster than the awakening of a generation. And no wall of power can stand firm when its foundation is built on fear. We, the people of Africa, once knew fear. We feared the colonizers. We feared hunger. We feared the sound of guns, and even the darkness within our own hearts. But each of those fears we faced and we overcame. We turned chains into lessons, and wounds into memory. Now the only fear left for us to conquer is the one that still lives within. They, those trembling on their shaky thrones, may call you rebels, outsiders, agents of foreign powers. But they only call you that because they tremble before what you carry inside you, the future. That future does not belong to buildings draped in flags, nor to the hands that signed treaties with those who once stole our lands. That future belongs to the youth who dare to speak, to the mothers who no longer cry in silence, to the soldiers who understand that the homeland does not reside in orders but in the people. They may shoot at our chests, but they cannot shoot at the truth. They may cut the broadcast, but they cannot cut the path of light. They may build fences of steel, but they cannot build a wall inside the hearts of a generation that has awakened. Africa today is entering the era of memory. Every citizen is a hand holding a camera. Every phone is a torch. Every silenced voice will echo 1,000,000 times over. No one can erase a people who have seen themselves in the mirror of truth. I say to those trembling inside their palaces of power, do not fear the people, for they are you, in your truest form. Fear the moment when the people stop believing, for that is when history changes direction. And I say to those in the streets, hunted, silenced, and defiant, do not bow your heads. Do not stay silent. Every step you take today is the drumbeat of a continent awakening. We do not need anyone's permission to be free. We do not need outsiders to teach us democracy. We have already paid enough in blood, in tears, in time. Now, it is time for Africa to write its next chapter with the pen of its own people. The fear does not lie in armies, it lies in a generation that no longer fears. They call you outsiders because they are afraid you belong to the future, and that future belongs to us.